Hello, beautiful boss babes. Are you ready to chase life with Kelly? Well, I'm your host, Kelly Chase, and I'm so excited you're here. We are going to talk about all things love, dating, relationships, money mindset. We're going to dive deep into self-love, worthiness. I am going to bring on some incredibly empowering guests. We're going to have fun, we're going to laugh, and perhaps we're even going to shed some tears together. I am here to empower you, inspire you, and motivate you to create the life you crave. I am so excited for today's episode. Let's dive in. Hi, babes. Welcome back to the show. I mean, I say this with every guest, but it's because every guest is really, truly remarkable and wonderful. So I'm going to introduce you to one of my wonderful and remarkable friends. So this girl, Jessica DeRose, she is a CVO, which is something I had never heard of until I have been in her world, but the Chief Visionary Officer of the Digital Business Evolution. So here's a little brief background on her, which is her story is just so cool. So obviously we're going to learn more about that, but she's a former celebrity personal trainer and elementary school teacher, just turned her once quote unquote cute side hustle into a multi-million-dollar business in 18 months. Yes, you heard that correct. 18 months. Since leaving her teaching job in 2017, she has hired a team of incredible heart-centered leaders, served hundreds of clients, and helped them generate over $11 million in revenue. She is committed to helping 100 entrepreneurs create seven-figure impact-driven businesses. 9 down, 91 to go. As a result of donations and the awareness she and her company created, the Digital Business Evolution, have generated, Jess was able to fund the building of a school in Ghana, Africa, with pencils of promise. The school opened in January 2021 and is home to over 150 students and local staff. That is just so incredible. Jess has been featured in the Wall Street Journal, Forbes, Yahoo Finance, The Today Show, Good Day New York, The New York Post, Shape Magazine, Well and Good. As evident through her business, life and philanthropic endeavors, Jess's mission is to cause a ripple effect and inspire change for generations to come, making a massive impact along the way and leaving a lasting legacy beyond her singular actions. Welcome to the show, Miss Jessica.
Kelly, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. And I'm also really just excited to say we crossed the 12 million mark for our clients as of a couple of weeks ago and 10 millionaires. So I just have to celebrate that.
Oh my God. That's so exciting. Congratulations.
Yeah. It's definitely our big flex. Yeah.
Yeah, flex it for sure. Celebrate. Absolutely. And I love that. I was, talking with a mutual friend of ours yesterday, and it was just so interesting because I was just telling her, I was like, my journey itself, I feel like I had to, distance myself from the environments that weren't supporting me and who I wanted to become and everything. And thus I joined a Facebook group. Jessica was in that Facebook group, and that's how we met, and going through 2 different entrepreneurial events together, as well as we were in the same mastermind back in 2018. So that is how Jessica and I met. But it's just so neat, to have such supportive people that are doing similar things as you, and or just so like-minded, and they like to celebrate and help and just can really appreciate where we're at. We've all gone through something that is similar to someone else in this journey. I mean, in life overall, but as far as being an entrepreneur, it's just, we go through it.
Yeah, for sure. And it could definitely be isolating, and it can definitely be lonely, and there can definitely be really long work days. So we need to make sure that we're getting ourselves into those rooms and events and masterminds and all of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. So back us up to, you were a school teacher.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. It feels like a lifetime ago. I don't even remember that version of myself. Wow. I really don't. So even before that, there were a lot of different iterations. And what I've learned as I've learned about myself and become really self-aware is that I actually love mastering things. And as soon as I learn them or master them, I'm gone. I don't care about finishing projects. I like starting projects, which brings me back to being the CVO, the visionary officer. I'm definitely a visionary. I'm definitely an innovator. And so I like to start things. Once I learn them, I'm kind of over it. I move on to the next thing. And I thought that was a downfall for a really long time. I actually thought I was a quitter. So I had gone to college for my doctorate of physical therapy, and then I dropped out of the doctorate program when I was in grad school. I then went to fashion school, lived on my brother's couch for a year in Manhattan, and then ended up teaching. So elementary school phys ed and health was my fallback. And I say that in quotes, but it was sort of something my parents had actually lightly encouraged me to take and do, because when I was in school for my doctorate, I was taking all of the science classes. And so it was just like, yeah, throw in a couple education classes and you could be a teacher. And I had always been a coach. I was always a gymnastics coach and I was a collegiate gymnast. And so I ended up, after a couple different pivots and iterations, going back to that job and saying, fine, I'll just do the thing that I had. My plan C was to be a phys ed teacher. And I did. And I was for 8 years. And I loved my job, but I didn't like my life. I felt like I was living in someone else's story. Like someone wrote the movie and put me in as the main character. And I'm like, wait a minute. No, you got the wrong girl. And so while I loved what I did, I loved kids, I loved teaching, I loved coaching, I loved sports, athletics. Every day I would wake up and it was like, this is it? Like, this is it? So the whole time I was a teacher, for two different reasons, I had a couple different side hustles. The first reason was, quite frankly, I had to. I was doing things on the side because I needed to make ends meet. We were living the American dream, as I like to say. My husband and I were completely house poor, living paycheck to paycheck in a home that we couldn't afford, right? And the other reason was I was unfulfilled. And so I would get home at 3:25. My husband got home at 9:00 at night, commuting into the city and back. And so from 3:25 to 9, it was like, what am I doing with my life? This can't be it. So the 8 years that I was a teacher, I was also playing around with network marketing. I had gotten involved in personal development many years earlier when I was healing myself through a 10-year battle with an eating disorder. And so I was always involved in sort of personal development. And when you get into that world, a lot of times you start to see what's possible. And personal development and entrepreneurship kind of go hand in hand. And so I grew up in a family of doctors, lawyers, and accountants, and I already felt like I was a failure as a teacher. I had dropped out of my doctorate and I wasn't a real doctor anyway, right? I said that in quotes, but I felt like a failure anyway. And so this idea of entrepreneurship was not something that I learned about until I was in my 30s. And the entire time I was working as a teacher, I was just grasping at things that would fulfill me. So one of my side hustles was a company, for lack of a better term, that I started called Fit Trips, Friendship Inspired Training. And I took the concept of taking my kids on field trips during school to, why can't I take adults on field trips after school? And so for 3.5, 4 years, I ran that company. We did monthly women's only fitness inspired field trips and Costa Rica retreats. And we ended up with ambassadors all over the country, but it was never to make a living. It was never to be an entrepreneur. It was like, I want to go take a class in New York City after school, and none of my friends think that's fun. They don't want to go with me. They don't want to commute into the city after a day of work and pay $40 for a pop-in class and get a smoothie. And I was like, but that's what I want to do. So I just started creating environments that didn't exist. And in 2012, I was doing bodybuilding competitions, and my coach was in Massachusetts and I was in New Jersey, and I paid her virtually. And she would email me my workout program and my macros. And at that time, I had been a personal trainer for about 12 years. And so I had this light bulb moment of, wait a minute, I could reach out to all of my friends from high school and college who don't live in the same state as me, and I could train them through email. And that was it. 2012, I started my first iteration of my online business. Again, not to be an entrepreneur. It was just like $79 here, $79 there. I'm helping pay the bills. And it was really fun for me. And so for 5 years, I did that part-time. I was blogging weekly. I was doing paid Facebook groups, free Facebook groups. And it was in 2017, which I'm sure I'll share the story if you want, but 2017, I decided to leave my teaching job and go kind of all in, for lack of a better term, as an entrepreneur.
Yeah. It's so interesting to hear you say that, because I feel like, when people ask me, they're like, oh, like, have you always been an entrepreneur? Like, what did you do? And, or, were your parents entrepreneurs? And I'm like, no, didn't have parent entrepreneurs. Like, I mean, I may have like aunt uncles that are entrepreneurs, but nothing close to me was an entrepreneur. And then for me, it was that same thing. It's like, it was a side hustle for so long. And granted, I have over the last 5 years, I have gone back into corporate and I've dabbled here and there, and I haven't, had the quote unquote success as you have in my business. But there's been a lot of other, like,
I don't know about that. It depends what the marker of success is.
That's where I was going. Because this is what, I want to stress the importance of everyone's journey is going to look different. And my journey is being on a TV show and what came from that and the successes that came from that and the opportunities and the people I've been able to meet, like everything that has come from that. So yes, it is a different success.
Yeah.
And I feel like people think that, like, I mean, granted, this was something I was struggling with for the last like year and a half, but when I think of like, oh, my business, like my sole business of Chase Life Together is not successful because that's not like the sole income earner, but I'm earning income from other opportunities and whatever. Right. So it's just something I've had to work through myself. Yeah. But it's just interesting, but it's like, I couldn't not like, I mean, even, my parents telling me, they want to be supportive and they are, while also it's like, okay, well, if your business isn't necessarily working, quote unquote, then give yourself a time frame, go get another job. And I'm like, even if I get another job, I'm not going to stop doing what I'm doing. Like I'm still going to be working my business because I have been expanded to it. I know what it is like to have this time freedom and this location freedom, to wake up at 9 a.m. instead of being at a corporate office at 7 a.m. on a holiday. Like, I know what it feels like and I don't want that anymore.
But they're just concerned, right? Like I totally get it. Yeah. They're just worried about you. Yeah,
exactly. But it's just me like hearing that from you too. It's like, it was a side job. And I think that, as you said, the personal development is so crucial because that helped you to grow and expand your mindset into knowing, okay, like, let me take this leap.
Yeah.
Like, I can,
Yeah. If I could share this story real quick, it's usually one that gets a lot of kind of mind blown emojis. It was a pivotal moment for me. So I left my job in 2017, but it was October of 2016. And I was driving to work, listening to a podcast as I did. And the man that was interviewing this woman was talking to her about her cute side hustle. She also was a teacher and she sold jewelry on Etsy. And so I'm like really listening because she is me. And he said to her, what if you gave yourself 1 year? If you quit your job as a teacher, you just gave yourself a year to go all in on the Etsy thing. What if it didn't work out? And she said, well, I'll probably just go get another teaching job. I might have to go to a different district, but I've been a teacher for a decade. His answer changed my entire life because he said, oh, well, that's interesting. How does it feel to wake up every day and live in your worst case scenario? What? I pulled the car over, Kelly. I was bawling, crying. I texted Mike. I said, I can't do this anymore. It wasn't my worst case scenario, but it wasn't my best case scenario. And when I realized that I could just go back to it or a different type of job, as long as I was willing to remove my ego and maybe do something that I thought was beneath me, then what was I doing living in this other person's story like I started with? So that night, Mike and I started to talk about what would it look like if I left? How long could we survive on his salary, which I was super grateful that he had a job and a salary. And then let's play the worst case scenario game. Like, let's actually go there to the place of discomfort. So what if we did have to sell the house? What if we did have to move in with my parents or his family or my brother? What if we did have to do XYZ? What if I had to get another job? And when we started to play that game, it was like, wow, there's actually, and I'm very privileged to be able to say this, there were so many dominoes that would have to fall over before it would be, we don't have shelter or food. And so when we recognized that, I walked in about 3 weeks later and I resigned from my job. My principal thought I was absolutely crazy pants, like bananas. What are you doing? And the plan was, I'm going to do whatever I have to do to make ends meet. And I'm only going to make decisions that feel exciting and that I'm excited about and that I feel aligned with. My cute side hustle was bringing in like $300 to maybe $1,000 a month. It's not like I had replaced my income. So I didn't leap. I wasn't courageous. I didn't jump and like grow wings on the way down. I couldn't breathe.
Right.
And I felt like I was living in someone else's story, and the walls were just like caving in. I don't know the last time you've been to an elementary school, but like quite literally the toilets are really low to the ground, like everything is small. And I just was like, I was getting older and just like shriveling up in this building. And I love teachers. They're incredible. I acknowledge you if you're a teacher. But for me, it was just like, this can't be it. I can do it. I love it, but like, this can't be it. There's got to be something else. And I don't know what that's going to be. And when I initially left, so that school year was my last one, 2017, I did think that I was in health and fitness. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to be the next Jillian Michaels or tone it up. And I'm going to be like a fitness personality. And when we moved to New York City, that's exactly what I did. Yeah. I started just busting my butt in my fitness business online. I cranked it up 10 notches. I was working, like you said, as a celebrity trainer in the city, doing the magazines and the photo shoots and the bodybuilding competitions. And I thought that that was the path that I was going to be on. But I went back. I was 32 or 33 at the time, like an adult. We had a house, we were married. And I went back to working like the front desk at a gym because I had to work my way back up again. And just because I had a career in New Jersey, no one in New York knew who I was. And so it was really a practice of removing my ego. And once I was able to do that, it just changed the game.
Yeah, I love that. And I resonated too with you feeling like you were suffocated, because that, as I said, I've like, ebbed and flow with the corporate space over the last few years. And that is what happened to me back in like February, March of last year. Well, actually, that was like the full year after Love is Blind had aired. And within that year, I was so exhausted. But I was working a corporate job at the time. I was, trying to do my coaching. I was doing influencing. I was being requested on podcasts. Like, it felt like I was never sleeping. Yeah. Like, my mind was never shutting off. Thank God the world shut down and I could at least sleep in a little bit longer so I didn't have to drive to work. And I was working from my house for a handful of, for all of last year, really. But it was just so fascinating because I remember telling my parents, like 3 months after Love is Blind aired, I was like, I'm like really tired. Like, I can't do this. And I need to leave my corporate job. And they were like, why don't you put a back step on your coaching business and just have this consistent paycheck, right?
Right.
And I was like, okay, but I could, like I said earlier, I couldn't not do my business. So it's like, now maybe I wasn't like super consistent with it, but it was still there. I'd get ideas and I would like, okay, let me launch this or let me promote this or whatever. And yeah, probably I should have taken a back step, but I didn't. And it created so much burnout though, that I had anxiety attacks, which I had never experienced. I had never experienced that. So Valentine's weekend, 2021, that's when it happened. I was like, oh my God. And I took a week off of work, like literally sent a message that Sunday night and was like, I can't come. I've had a panic attack or something. And my boss was like, I know what that feels like. So I totally get it. Like, let me know, I went home to my parents' house and my dad, like, the following weekend, he was like, you ready to go back to Atlanta? And like my entire body, like was overcome with like anxiety again.
Yeah.
Like, no, I can't. I did. I was okay. I worked 2.5, 3 more weeks. And I like literally sent my boss a message and I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
But what you were saying, it's like, I didn't have the income coming in from my coaching business at the time, like enough, I guess. But I just left. I was like, I thought that God's going to catch me. I don't know.
Yeah.
And that happened. God caught me. I was able to like come to, but it was definitely that like suffocating feeling like I can't do this anymore. And luckily, nothing worse happened to me, but the anxiety was just so crazy. And I was like, I will never put myself in a situation like that ever again.
No.
Crazy.
It's wild.
Yeah, it is. Okay. So then you went from, now you're growing this business and tell me about your business, I guess, like the trajectory, the growth of your business from when you kind of like went full time into it. as
Yeah.
an entrepreneur.
So with that timeline, I had been doing it on the side for 5 years. So like I said earlier, blogging, ebooks, email, whatever, launching $79 12-week workout plans and whatever was trending all of those years pre-Instagram, right? Pre-TikTok. It was so long ago. When I decided to kind of go all in and when I quit my job, that's when I really turned up the notch. And so I just poured gasoline on the fire. And I went from having X amount of hours to work on my business to now like endless hours. However, I was working at a gym in New York. So I was up, 5 o'clock in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, going off to clients. I was with clients all day in person. If I had a break in between clients, I was on my computer. When I would get home at night, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, I'd be eating dinner at my computer, back with clients, putting together programs. And I started selling different types of courses as well. So I had gone from a lot of kind of one-to-one model to one-to-many. And in doing that, my cute side hustle scaled to multiple six figures, like literally overnight. I mean, it was just 2 months, 3 months into kind of being full-time, it just popped. And so I ran that for years. I mean, I did that from 2017 or technically 2012 all the way to 2020. So I was still working with clients in person and online in health and fitness up to 2020. What happened towards the end of 2017 is that a lot of the trainers that I worked with in New York were like, what are you doing on the computer all the time? How are you making all this money? What is Zoom? I mean, this was 2017, like not everybody was using it yet, So I just started helping my friends. I'm a teacher. And so I just started teaching totally for free. One friend turned into 3, turned into 7. Every Tuesday, we're sitting around my laptop in the fitness studio. And I was like teaching people how to build landing pages and create opt-ins to build their emails and just kind of teaching people everything that I had learned. And if we backtrack, I hired my first business coach in 2014. Okay. So I'd had a business coach for many, many years, different iterations, different masterminds, different programs. So I just started teaching people. And the first client, I say client loosely, friend, the first friend who I brought through a launch had a $92,000 launch. And I was like, okay, I think what I'm teaching is working. And then the next client was like a $60,000 launch, and then $80,000, another one, a $40,000 launch. And I'm doing this all for free. Yeah. So at the end of 2017, I was like, I think I have something here and I'm going to start charging you. And so I did. I started charging. And by 2018, we ended up having our signature program, Empower, and we had dozens and dozens of people going through it. And we had coaches on staff. And now where we are today, I finally in 2020 put the training hat down after 18 years and I shut down anything health and fitness related. And we are business coaches, business mentors, business consultants, and we specialize in launches and course creation. We have a team of, I think, what do we have? We have 5 on our executive leadership team and like 12, 14 coaches. We have an attorney on staff. We've got an accountant on staff, a mindset coach on staff. So when you come into one of our programs, it's a one-stop shop. We do everything soup to nuts with you so that you have a thriving, sustainable, scalable, and profitable business machine. We're not teaching you to create a product. We are not huge advocates of having a lot of offers. Our business philosophy is one solid core offer and do it on lather, rinse, repeat, just as we have. So as we record this episode, we're getting ready to open up our 16th round of that signature program. Yeah, it's pretty credible.
Yeah, that's so cool. I know. Yeah. Like, one of my friends went through your program.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. No, that's so cool. And it's funny because since I've been doing this, like for the last few years, it's like I get ideas and I've taught, not like on a grand scale, but whether it's 2 people or 5 or 10, I've taught these programs and I learned through Angie Lee or Erin or whomever that I've mentored with over the last 4 years. It's like repurpose. Record your shit and so that's what I've done. It's like, so I have 3 different courses. Granted, I just told myself, I feel like, Kelly, your superpower is in person, or not necessarily, well, it is in person, but it's live. Yeah. Like being in person, quote unquote, with me, I feel is like because you can feel my energy. And granted, since I have essentially recorded courses in the past, my energy has probably shifted because I've evolved and I've expanded and everything, right? So my energy is different now than it was 6 months ago, even 2 weeks ago, even. So it's like, I'm like, okay, I now want to teach a live course. Yeah, those are my favorite. Yeah. So I'm like, I really want to do that. And I've had a curriculum outlined out for a freaking year and a half. what, like, okay, let's get
Do
ourselves
it.
going, Kelly, you know?
Yeah. I mean, that's my favorite model for sure.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
to your point of like having a solid single offer, I mean, I've heard that. I mean, granted, every business is different, of course. And
Yep.
I mean, some of my mentors have done little mini programs and then they had 10 courses that they could offer someone that just built upon one another. But then that was probably one of the first things that I ever heard as I stepped into this like digital online space. It's like, have one offer and sell it all the time. Like that's it, like, and do it. And so I'm like, okay, I really want to do this offer.
Yeah. 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 I love that you said that too, because there's no right way, best way, or only way. There are different ways to do things. I do believe that success leaves clues. And so when I look at the people in the industry, whether it's coaching or digital marketing or digital education, course creation, when I look at the most successful people, entrepreneurs, and businesses, not in revenue, because that means nothing, not even in profit, but in staying power. Like my own personal mentor that I've been working with for the last 2 years. I mean, he's been doing this for 14 years online at a very high scale and has an incredible team and a total machine that's running where he really doesn't have to be a part of it. And it's still running 8 figures a year. So when I look at something like that, I'm like, okay, success leaves clues. And when I look at what I perceive to be the most successful, happy, holistic life, not just the money, they're doing one offer. It doesn't mean that they don't sell other things on the back end. Like we have other options too. We've got a higher level mentorship and a mastermind and a couple evergreen things that you can purchase. But our philosophy is all roads lead to Empower, which is our signature offer. And that's where we put the majority of our efforts. And we also then diversify our streams of revenue as we diversify our streams of investments as well. So something we've stepped into a lot over the years has been even like real estate investing. So we have money in different places. We have income coming in different places. We have money going out in different places. And certainly as we've scaled the team the past couple of years. So just to go back on the timeline, the fitness business grew really quickly. And when I started doing the business coaching as well, because I was doing both for a while, we scaled to multiple 7 figures. And that's where we've been now for the last, however many years it's been, 4 or 5 years, 4 years. And I retired my husband from his corporate job. He came into the business and we've continued to grow the team. And so now it's like, okay, what does that look like? Let's actually put energy, time, capacity, and investment in the team rather than throwing out another offer or putting out some other like new masterclass or shiny object. So that's what works for us. It's not the right way or the only way, but certainly for us, it's what we've seen to have the best results, and it's how our clients get the best results. And it just, it's easy. It's easy because we become entrepreneurs, most of us, because we crave the freedom and autonomy. And then you start and you're like, wait a minute, the business is actually running my life. I have no time. I have no freedom. I have no autonomy. Yeah. And so what we've learned over the last couple of years is it's not entrepreneurship. It's not running or owning a business that creates freedom. It's having structure and systems in your business. The structure, the systems, the automations, the platforms, and the delegation to other people, that's what gives you the freedom. That's what gives you the autonomy. And it's taken years for us to build that. And we're still building that. We're still learning every single day. But the last 2.5 years have really been focused on that. And it's been a game changer.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as you yourself, I've watched, some things that you have started, I guess, along just your own personal journey, you started to do and incorporate and like more mindfulness stuff. And, like, how can you speak to that as far as like how adding more mindset teachings, I guess, enhanced or have evolved your program? Yeah.
I heard one time from a friend, mentor, she said something along the lines of, I don't share things when they're a scab. I wait until they're a scar. And so when it comes to even mindset stuff, I'm a teacher. Like I'm a teacher through and through. And I told you before, I love to master things and then move on. I will not share something that I have not fully understood, comprehended, learned, tried, integrated, embodied. And so for me, it was years and years of mindset work and personal development before I started to feel comfortable enough to integrate it into what I was teaching or how I was showing up, or maybe what I was sharing on social media, waiting for it to be more of a scar, less of a scab. I still will do that. So if I learn something really, really cool, I don't go and share it right away. I might share the resource, but I'm certainly not going to teach it. And I definitely don't teach anything outside my legal scope of practice. I am not into that. I've always taught more of the mindset stuff kind of behind the scenes than in my upfront content. However, I do believe that our businesses are a reflection of us, and they will only grow to the extent that we grow and to the extent of the problems that we're willing and able to manage. And so we named the company the Digital Business Evolution because we're always evolving and growing. And so as I've evolved and grown over the years, I'm 38 now. I have definitely had some lessons, and I've definitely learned some things, and I like to share those things. And I do believe there's a dance between kind of the masculine and feminine. So there's the strategy and the doing, and then there's the feminine and the being. And that doesn't mean just sitting around waiting for things to happen, but it's the be, do, have. It's the rewiring of the subconscious mind. It's the unraveling of all the old beliefs and installing new ones. Like, that's the feminine being. It's not just like, oh, I'm not going to do anything and everything's going to fall in my lap.
Yeah, it doesn't
work. Yeah, like there's still action that has to be taken. It can be aligned. And so as I've learned these things and put them into practice in my business, I of course will teach them when I feel appropriate. But one of the questions, or one of the things that I wanted to bring up, and it kind of ties back to this, you had said something a little bit earlier that reminded me of this. I actually shut down my entire Instagram account earlier this year. I had not as many followers as you, but I had 26,000 followers. I had worked on that account for, 7-8 years since Instagram had come out pretty much. I'd built all the iterations of my business on there, Fit Trips and fitness and this, that, and the other, isogenics, when I was doing network marketing. And after 8 years, I decided to shut it down, start a brand new account, and change my name so that I couldn't be found. And the reason that I did that was there were a lot of layers to it, but energetically, I wanted to remove myself from, like you said earlier, getting in the room of people who support you. 26,000 followers who didn't really care about what I was doing. Right? Like, I mean, a lot of them were coming from old things that I used to sell, people that I met maybe at an event. There were old beliefs on that page. There was old content there, and I'm proud of it. It still exists. It's the Digital Business Evolution page now. But there was an element of, I want to start fresh. I have new things to say because I've evolved. And I just felt like I wanted to cut ties with the old version of myself. And I had those identity like deaths, ego deaths, shamanic deaths multiple times in my life, right? I left physical therapy, then I left teaching, this, that, and the other. When pandemic hit, Mike and I were living in Manhattan. We left the city in the summer of 2020. We put all of our stuff in storage. We bought a 40-foot motorhome, and we decided, let's travel the country for 14 months in a RV, which neither one of us had ever even camped in our life. We did 27 states in 14 months. That's when I retired him and he came into my business. And to say that I came out a completely different person would be an understatement.
Sure. I'm sure.
That journey, it was like, I'm not the same person. I don't have the same beliefs. I got really clear on my business philosophy. And the only way that felt kind of solid for me to stand in that was to just start over, and not start over with the intention of, I've grown it once before, I can grow it again. Because that was like old self, accolades, awards, recognition, significance. It was like, I actually don't care if I grow it. I'm just doing it to start fresh. And I never changed my name when we got married. So legally, I'm still my maiden name. I'm Glazer. Oh yeah. But my Instagram account now is my married name, which is DeRose. And so people still, I started that account in January. It's now September. People are like, wait a minute. Why? You have a new account? I was wondering where you went. I'm like, yeah, and again, that shamanic death of letting go of all of the articles and newspapers and magazines and TV and podcasts, years of grinding and hustling to get my name into these places for significance. And now I can't be found, right? Like, that stuff isn't tied back to me anymore. And that sort of shedding and surrendering to that was like a cathartic healing. So yeah, that's how I bring my mindset in.
Yeah, so good. Look, I mean, I feel like, okay, you did, I want to say, like, leading up to you transferring over your account, or not transferring over, but like starting this new one. I remember, because I probably was one of the first people to follow you, because I saw your stuff, because I always see your stuff. You post consistently at 2:00 every day. You did for a long time. But that's why I knew, like, I'll have to tell you a story about that. But anyways, I like saw, and you were like, I'm closing this account. I'm going to be over at another one kind of thing. And I don't know if you told anyone where you were going. You were just said, account is closing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, but it was just like interesting. So I did start to like follow you back then.
And it was so scary because it's our livelihood.
Dude, I was like, oh my God, like,
she's gone crazy.
But also I was like, that is so cool. Like that she's able to put her ego aside and let that just cleanse and like wipe it out. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with, there's a girl named Rachel Bell, and she literally follows 0 people on her Instagram. Not one person does she follow. And I am just like, I'm obsessed watching her. She's like 10 years younger than us. I love fucking watching her because she's so authentic and so who she is. And it's just so permission giving, like, you know, and she's like light years ahead of me even now. Like I'm 10 years old. Like she's just been doing the work, quote unquote, for so long. And she actually just launched her last round of her like signature offer a few months ago. And she was like, before I go, this is it. Like this is a chance to actually do this program with me because I'm evolving and I'm going to retire for a little while. And I'm like, good for you. And she's just like living her life. Like she's doing like healing retreats, like doing her own development work and inner work and all that stuff. But like, she's just so empowering and inspiring. And I'm just like, that is so cool to just like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Like make such a big move like that. Like, so I commend you for doing that. And
thank you.
And it is like I know I was recently on your podcast and we talked about this around like the followers, like followers does not equal money. It does not equal income. Like it really doesn't. And I mean, granted, I just said that earlier, like the success of my business, my sole business is not necessarily where I would like it to be. But if someone had to have thought like, well, Kelly, you have 400 something thousand followers, you must be a gajillionaire. I'd be like, yep, you're wrong.
Yeah. It's crazy. We've had so many clients come through our programs too. We've had a lot of like influencer clients that have 250, 300,000 followers, something like that. And they get what I call a Kardashian effect. So they'll put an offer out and they'll get flooded with like applications coming in or sales calls getting booked. And then it's like a bunch of no's because the people just want to get into their proximity. The people just want to, that's not everybody, but a lot of times this happens where we've worked with so many big influencers where we're like, you know, 1 million followers, something like that. We have to let them know ahead of time. Like, I'm not saying that you don't have ideal clients in your audience, but what we've seen to happen over the last 4 years is that people like you have a Kardashian effect and people just are obsessed, and you say jump and they say how high, and you say buy and they say, okay. So, you know, it's really interesting because a lot of our clients are selling higher ticket type group coaching programs, even if it's like $1,000. And these people don't necessarily want to buy that, or they're not really interested in this big, long program. And so we've had to talk a lot of our clients off the ledge because it stings and it's a shock to them. And you go through these emotional highs and lows of like, oh my God, I woke up to 175 applications. And you're like, yeah, but how many of them are actually ideal clients or really willing to pay or ready to make that time investment? And so we've just seen that now for 4 years, like over and over and over. Yeah.
I love that label you just gave it. I feel like, well, and again, this is probably just my ego speaking, but where I found myself like when I would launch over, you know, since the show aired, it's like, and it flopped or whatever, I'll be like, I thought these people liked me. Like, I thought that they wanted everything that I have and like, they want to like be me. I know that sounds, but like, you know what I mean? It's like, but then it's crickets because you're right. It's like, it's not necessarily the ideal client, or they're not in the place to pay for that. They don't, they're not there yet, you know? So that's a really good label.
And a lot of times it's probably illegal. I probably can't say that because it's like not, you know, my name is not trademarked, but a lot of times too, there's a difference between inspiring and motivating and aspirational and then authority.
Right.
So a lot of times it's like, you're such an inspiration. I love watching your story. I'm vicariously living through you. You motivate me, but it's not necessarily, I see you as this authority that I want to pay and to learn from, or this credible source of whatever. Right. And so that happens too. And it can be shifted by the way that you show up in your content and knowing how to go into a launch effectively and having those different seasons during a launch. And, Jeff Walker, he wrote the book Launch, and it talks about 4 different phases of launch. We teach 8. And you're never not launching. So if you're a business owner, an aspiring coach, you're an entrepreneur, like, you are never not in launch. You're just in one of the 8 phases of launch. That's just what it is when you run a business.
Yeah. Really great, because you're one of the biggest. I mean, I don't know if you're 8. I will learn them soon, I feel like. But it's constantly, you're nurturing your audience. I mean, you're growing your like, know, and trust, and that is a big part of your launch. You have to have the trust of your people to want to pay you.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I know. I love that. What I want to ask you, like, 2 big questions. One, okay, so obviously you're married and you retired your husband. Were there any fears and resistance to you being more successful to your husband? Was there any like intimidation and like what relationship conflicts or anything like that? Like, because I feel like that is something I have had conversations with women before where they're married or in relationships and they're like, it's not necessarily that I have a fear of failure. I have a fear of being too successful and like actually my partner. So
wow.
Ever a thing?
That's such a great question. I've never been asked that. Mike has been asked that a lot. So I find it so interesting that you asked me. Listen, business is not sunshines and rainbows. It's not all unicorns, neither are relationships. So have there been difficult conversations? Have there been transitional moments that have been difficult? Absolutely. I am very fortunate to say, though, that's the first time that I even ever heard someone say that, let alone thought it. I have been supported by Mike from day one. He's actually the one that was encouraging me to leave my job before I was even ready to leave my job. So 2-3 years into teaching, he was like, "What are you doing? You should be in medical device sales. Like you're a salesperson." I'm like, "What are you talking about? I've never taken a sales class in my life." Like he saw stuff in me that I didn't see. One of his superpowers is talent. That's what he used to do for his job. He was like a talent manager and a hirer. He was also just a manager at the bank that he worked at. So he always was supporting me and encouraging me, never pushing me. I do that enough myself, recovering perfectionist and people pleaser and type A and all the things, right? Recovering control freak, eating disorder, like I said. So I've always been the hardest on myself. It was never like a friction between us. I think he had his own journey of very quickly kind of getting over the like, yeah, my wife's the breadwinner. I have been for many years. I think he thought it was cool. I think he was super proud of me. I don't think it ever emasculated him. He never really, as far as I know, he never struggled with it. He always just saw it as something he was really proud of. And, he's always done his part, whether it was when he was in the business or he wasn't in the business before. So yeah, I mean, for us, it really was never a thing. I think the most difficult part was just him transitioning into the business and literally just learning it, because he came from corporate. He was in banking. Even little nuanced things like we use Google Calendar and G Suite or whatever it's called now, Google Workspace. So Sheets and all of that, where he was on computers that were like Microsoft and he was using a completely different platform. He had never used Zoom. He was using whatever their phone thing was, right? So he was using a different calendar management. And so integrating into the company just even to learn that stuff. And we also had already had an executive team that I was running for a couple of years. So stepping in there and also figuring out the position, because we didn't know if when he first came in where he was really going to be sitting. He's the CEO of the company. So I'm the founder, but he's the CEO. And I mean, at the end of the day, I put the stamp of approval on all the things as a CVO, but he is the CEO. He's also finance and HR and legal and all of that too. But I think the transition for him coming in, just kind of learning where we needed him best and where he could shine, and him learning the nuances of the business and the jargon and the platforms, all while also moving into a 300 square foot, motorhome. It was just a big transition for us, but it was easy. It really was.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. How did you, okay, you mentioned about being like recovering, like control freak and people pleaser and perfectionist and all that.
Mhm.
How did you start to add people to your team? Like, how did you have
Yeah.
people knowing that maybe, you know, having that perfectionism, like, well, I know that I can only do it best. So
Yep.
how were you able to let go and surrender and give opportunity to people?
You know how they say, whoever they are, like the universe will give you like a nudge and then kind of like a tap and then a smack on the shoulder and then a whack upside the head.
Yeah.
So for me, it was that. And that has been a theme in my life where it's like I'm being given the signs and I'm not necessarily listening until I get wiped out. And so whether it was the eating disorder or multiple ankle surgeries where I ended up in a wheelchair, or I had a breast cancer scare when I was first going full-time as an entrepreneur, just grinding myself into the ground. For me, unfortunately, it's taken those types of moments to wake up. And so I made all of the mistakes that they say in the books. Like I waited to hire out of need, desperation, necessity. I couldn't breathe. I felt like I was drowning. And it was like, I'll grasp the first person that comes along. And so with that, it was like, just take anything off my plate. And so it wasn't a matter of like, oh, this is really hard to give up. It was like, I just can't do it. So whatever you can take is good enough. And a lot of personal work because it has been really hard. And there are things, I think for me, I learned very quickly, delegating obviously can give you time, right? And like, oh my gosh, this is great. But also very quickly, some stuff that I delegated was done better than I had done it. And it was like, wait a minute, I can pass this off and this person's better at it, or they're faster at it than I am. This is amazing. And so once I had that evidence there, it was like addicting almost, where you're like, okay, can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? Yeah. There's pretty much only one thing left that I have not fully delegated out. And I don't know that I ever will be able to, but it's my calendar. I just like, I have a really hard time just totally opening my calendar up for my team to plug stuff into. They do, like they'll plug in podcasts and stuff, but I'm still putting in blocks on the calendar saying like, I'm open for podcasts here, or I'm blocked off for my own personal stuff here. So that is the only thing in the business that I have not given away complete control of.
Yeah. Is that hindering you right now though? I mean, is it a
No, it's just kind of like if Lauren, who's my COO, if she says, I need times in October for podcasts, or I need you to put the Empower call schedule in for November, then I have to do it. And I can't get annoyed because it's something that I want to control. So no, it's not hindering me, but once a month it's a task.
Right.
And that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get it. Well, it was funny because I think my mom asked me the other day, she was like, what are you, like, why do you need your virtual assistant? Because that like, if like one thing that my virtual assistant does, they were doing a little bit more last year, but whatever. Anyways, but I was like, well, they're editing my podcast. They do the editing, they create the promo material for it and all that jazz. And my mom, like, I thought she was going to be like, well, like, can't you do that yourself? But she didn't. She was just like, got it. And I was like, yeah, I ain't doing that. Didn't start out doing it and I'm not going to start doing it now.
Yeah.
I immediately knew that because I'm not a technical person. I was like, I immediately knew that was not going to be something I would enjoy and it would make me not like my podcast. So I was like, I'm immediately going to outsource that.
Yeah.
Thank you. So it's like, and granted, I'm not a perfectionist in that regard. Like people have asked me like, oh, do you like, before you air your podcast episode, do you like go back and listen to it? And I'm like, no. It's I
don't have time for that.
I don't have time for that. Like I expect my virtual assistant to do their job and to do a really good job. And if it's has some mistake in it, whatever, like it's human, whatever, we're all human. We can have it have to be flawless.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because the first time I started to really delegate when I had a personal assistant, like an executive assistant a couple of years ago, I remember one day Mike came home from work and he said, oh, how does it feel to like take all this stuff off of your plate, have this person take all this stuff off your plate? And I responded with, she didn't take anything off of my plate. She's doing things that I wasn't getting done. So she had come in and started doing things that like was just kind of falling through the cracks, or I wasn't getting done, or I kept putting off, that to-do list item that just keeps getting moved from like one Post-it note to the next, but she hadn't actually taken anything off my plate. And so while I was frustrated by that realization, I was also super grateful where it was like, oh, but all this other stuff is finally getting done. And so we've actually found in the company that that's happened to every single person on the team as well. So now they'll have their own VAs or assistants too, because it's like they get to a place where stuff maybe isn't getting done or they don't have capacity. So now, they get to hire out. So Lauren, our COO integrator, she has someone that works with her as well. And I have nothing to do with that person. Like Lauren is her manager, Lauren is her leader. And so a lot of the space that's been cleared in my calendar and my day and in my role in the company is just reallocated to either just like a lot of visionary type stuff. I'm still doing a ton of coaching. We've got our podcast, this, that, and the other, but a lot of my time is actually allocated now to leadership. And that is something that people do not talk about and they do not teach. And it is hard.
I'm sure. So leading your team.
Yeah. And like learning to be a really good leader and radical candor and difficult conversations and taking, learning about communication and just leadership is a whole thing. And I have found that most of us are not good at it. And leadership is not the same thing as being a leader. Leadership is not the same thing as being an influencer, a coach, a content creator. Like it's not the same thing. And I wouldn't say triggered. I don't have to do work on it. But when people will call themselves like a CEO, especially when they don't even have a team, it's just them. I'm like, no, you're confused. Like that's not, we can't just throw that around. It's a real thing, like, which I don't want to do. I don't want to be the CEO. So that's no ego. You could take that role. I don't want that. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I want to be that either. I'm going to just keep my founder title for right now.
Because the CEO is not on the CEO is not on the ground floor. Like the CEO is not doing the coaching. The CEO is not content creating,
Right.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. What were I want to ask about your school, but before I do, what maybe have been like one or two like really pivotal, I guess, challenges that you faced that you overcame? Like what are some things that you may have struggled with for a while, I guess, and then like more of like an inner thing, I guess.
Specific to the business?
Yeah, or yourself. I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
Personal or professional, like tie in with one another, but
yeah. There's a theme, in my life. I think we all have that. There's this theme where just really hard on myself, really self-motivated and driven. And so whether that's the perfectionist tendencies or just comparison, not to other people, but to myself and what I expect from myself, super high achiever. So it was interesting. I worked with a storytelling coach last year just to help kind of get my head clear as I was starting a new account. And we recognized that, I say this humbly and you'll understand why I get to the end of it, but we recognized that I've won everything I've ever done. Like I have literally, if it's a captain of this, if it's the National Honor Society, whatever award accolade, I've won every single thing I've ever done.
Wow.
But the reason, and this is the good part, is because I didn't play if I couldn't win. And so I didn't allow myself to be in situations that I couldn't win. And I'll give you an example that I know you'll giggle about because I know your podcast is like super cool about things. But there's a drinking game that everyone plays in high school and college, and it's a card game. And I must have missed that class. Like I missed that semester. No one taught me that card game. So when my friends would play that game in college, I would just bow out. I would say like, this game's stupid. I don't know why you guys like to play this game. Because my ego was so big and I was so afraid to say, I didn't know how. Can someone teach me? I never learned. And I was so fearful that if I learned, but I wasn't the best, that I could lose a freaking drinking game.
Wow.
Yeah. So at 37, I recognized this pattern of like, yeah, you idiot. Of course you won everything you did. Because if you weren't going to win, you didn't put yourself in.
Wow.
Like, period. So that was a really interesting realization for me to have. And over the past couple of years, especially as we've scaled the team, I'm learning that when I lose, when I make a mistake, when I fail, it's just an opportunity for me to grow. And I've now become a little bit obsessed with that. I've never had any issues with addiction, but I definitely get obsessed, right? Like I was a bodybuilder. I mean, I've been vegan for 18 years. Like I like control. I get obsessed with like whatever it is. And so now I kind of am obsessed with messing up and making mistakes and, taking that messy action and learning from it. But a very interesting pattern in my life was very similar to in business. We're our own worst bottleneck. And so I was my own worst bottleneck because I didn't there were experiences I just didn't have because I didn't want to look bad. I'll never forget going wakeboarding with friends in college. I didn't go. Like, I never took my turn because I was afraid that if I fell, that they would like laugh at me, not because I was afraid of the judgment. I was afraid that like, I'm not going to be the best. What if I can't stand up on the first try?
Right.
Yeah. So I missed out on experiences in my life, and I won't do that anymore moving forward. You know, I've committed to that, but I think that started in the business too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A long time ago. Yeah.
That's really, yeah, that's neat. That's a really, I mean, just dynamic realization that you've had. And yeah, I mean, it resonated on a different level with me. Like, it was something just earlier this year, I was working with a coach, and I had maybe I was like in the middle of reading A New Earth, and it's talking about the ego and the spiritual self and everything. And I swear, like, the last 2 years have been like really, like, as much as I can say, like, it was so good, but there was also a lot of hard times that we're going through, and just internally as well. But my coach was recognizing things like what you just said. Like, she was like, were you ever like in competition? You know, you have a sister. Were you ever like fighting for your parents' love or acceptance or whatever? And I was like, no, I never felt that way. And she said, she was like, okay, but like, you know, what are some things that you did growing up? And I was like, I don't know, like, I was on like, you know, different sports teams, or, you know, cheerleading, to dance, to track, to like whatever I said. And then I was like on homecoming court, and I was a prom princess, and then I was prom queen. And like, I achieved these things. I was like the, you know, one of the main singers or actresses in this theater play in middle school, and then the same type of thing in high school. Like, so I've like stood out, right? Yep. Like, I've always stood out. And I was like, I think what has been so in my head is that I see, you know, I was getting so caught up in my castmates and comparing myself to my castmates in the regard that my engagement dropped really significantly pretty quickly after the show aired. And I'm like, you know, one, I'm probably the most on my social media. Like, I'm always on my social media, whereas I don't think the rest of my cast is or was, right? And so there were like two things there, but like, one, I was like comparing myself, like, why is my likes, like, my followers was like still fine, but like my likes, my engagement was just crap compared to comparing to other people. Right. And so I was just like in my head about that. And so anyway, she was like getting to the point of like, you were born worthy. Like, you don't have to achieve something. You don't have to stand out to be enough. Yep. And I was like, oh my God, but that was like my story. Yeah. I have to bring a lot of awareness to now, ever since bringing that awareness 6 months ago. Okay, Kelly, where are you trying to stand out of ego, and know that you're just worthy because you were born? Yeah. Bring yourself back down, you know? Yeah. And I had to like reframe myself. I'm like, Kelly, you talked on, I mean, you still do. You did this before the show. So it wasn't like a new thing, but like you talk to your phone all the time. Like, you show up on Instagram, on your stories very often. And what were you doing? You were attracting your people. So the people who didn't want to hear what you had to say were no longer engaging with you. So you were doing exactly what you teach your clients to do. Show up because your energy is going to attract the right type of people in. But I got so fixated on like the engagement drop that I wasn't fixated on the power that I was holding in the thing. Yeah. Like, I'm not enough. Oh, they must not like me because they're like falling off like flies. So crazy. Oh my gosh. I was just looking. I couldn't find it. If you saw me looking over on the side, I wanted to read something real quick, but the introduction to my podcast actually says something about how I used to collect awards and accolades, right? And now I know that I'm inherently worthy regardless. And my mentor said something really powerful back in our mastermind that we were in person in July. He said, are you in it for the significance? Or are you truly in it for the impact? And I always tell people, don't judge your carrot. Whatever the thing is in front of you, 18 years as a trainer, thousands of clients, never once did someone come in to work out to feel better. Right. They didn't. They started working because they wanted to lose weight. They wanted to tone up. They wanted abs. They wanted to get ready for their wedding, baby weight, whatever it was.
after some sessions, they would then get addicted and say, I'm coming in because I want to feel good. I feel strong. I want the endorphins. I want to learn to pull up, right? But like never in the history of any client that I ever had did they start for anything other than a vanity metric. So don't judge your carrot. It's totally fine. What I learned and recognized is that, yeah, with entrepreneurship, especially using social media and sort of having a platform and being a thought leader and all these things, I definitely have always been in it for the impact, have always been in it to help other people because that's what I love. I'm a teacher. And there was an underlying tone of significance for me, whether it was the likes or the money or the magazine covers. And it was interesting because I've been held a mirror up before to that. One of my dear friends and mentors, Chris Harder, 5 years ago, he asked me, he pulled out my phone. He made me pull up my website. He scrolled down. He said, how many more of these as seen-ons do you need before you start feeling worthy?
Aww.
And it was like, oh man, you're right. They're not doing anything for my business. They're just feeding my ego. And so when my mentor, James, recently said, like, are you guys in it for the significance or are you in it for the impact? It was like, whoo, those are two different things. And there's nothing wrong with, having that underlying tone of significance because a lot of us are searching for worthiness. We're searching for love and feeling valued and valuable through external things. So yeah, it's been a journey.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. I know. I'm like, it could be a 10-hour long podcast because I'm like, what other fears did you go through? No, but okay. So tell us about the school in Ghana and like, how did that even start? Like what?
Yeah. That's so cool. When I left teaching, I committed to always being involved in education. And for the first few years that I had left, I used to go back to my old school and just volunteer and help out and go to the Girl Scouts and do trainings and stuff like that. And I believe in the universe or higher spirit power, whatever that is. And so I think it was 2017 or 2018, a bunch of mentors that I had looked up to and been following for a while, they all were on a mission trip and they were all there together. Actually, Chris Harder was one of them, with Pencils of Promise. And they were on Instagram and they were all sharing these stories, building a school. And immediately my ears sort of perked up. I'm like, what is this? This is really cool. And of course, as this is going on, I walk into the gym to train a client and he walks in and just randomly says, I recently read this book. I think you would like it. And it was A Promise of a Pencil by Adam Braun, who is the founder of and old CEO of Pencils of Promise. I'm like, that's funny. So I read the book, and of course, was like immediately drawn in and decided, I think I want to get involved in this particular charity. And then the final straw was that following weekend, I went to an event with Lewis House. Actually, I was at that event this weekend and I was at a dinner sitting next to a man I had never met. We were just at like a communal friends dinner and we start chit-chatting. And I was telling him that through Fit Trips, I actually used to donate the tickets to different charities. And every month I would let the girls pick whatever charity they wanted and what meant something to them. And so every month we'd give a couple $100s to different charities. And I was doing that for about 4 years. And one of my mentors that I was working with at the time had said to me, like, if you pick one charity, you could probably make a bigger impact. It's cool what you're doing, but if you pick one, you could probably make a bigger impact. So anyway, I'm telling this guy, Jim, and I'm telling him about my little fit trips and stuff. And he said, oh, have you thought about which charity? And I was like, honestly, this thing just keeps coming up from the universe. I think I'm going to go, have you ever heard of Pencils of Promise? And he was like, I'm on the board. Oh, I'll introduce you to the CEO. I was like, what? So that night he did an email, drafted it to the CEO, connected me. And I decided that was October of 2018. I decided, okay, I'm going to put together a page and we're going to do a 1-for-1 like Tom's. So for every client I work with, I'm going to give education to one student for 1 year of school overseas. And we'll also just donate some extra money here and there. 5-10 year goal. Maybe we'll build a school. That would be cool. And we hosted an event in New York City in 2019, and I donated every single dollar from every single ticket, not the profits. Like I donated all the proceeds. We actually had Pencils of Promise come to the event. They came up on stage and I handed them a $20,000 check and they were like, what? And that was sort of the moment for me where I said, this could just be so big and this is so much bigger than me. And we committed to just getting involved. And so June of 2020, they called me and they said, we've got enough. If you want to build a school and you're interested, we'd love to do that with you. So we broke ground June of 2020. Our doors opened January of 2021. There's about 600 students in that school right now, and it's all local community workers. We fund the WASH program, so clean water, hygiene, sanitation, as well as a menstrual program for the girls. And all the community members there are the teachers. So we fund their education, books, so on and so forth. And yeah, we've been able to raise or donate over $150,000 at this point, which is really, really cool. And I'm just eagerly waiting and patiently waiting for us to be able to go visit. We haven't been able to with everything going on, but I can't wait to get back over there. It's in Ghana. We have not been there, but we did honeymoon in Kenya. So we definitely feel a draw to Africa. And we were able to put a plaque on the school. And so we donated or dedicated it, I should say. We dedicated it to Mike's mom who had passed away. So it's very special. Yeah.
That's so neat. That is, I mean, like, cheese.
It's very cool. It's very cool. Yeah.
That's it's so interesting because I like doing volunteer work or just any type of philanthropic, like I want to do that. I just like haven't figured out exactly like what, but just hearing and knowing someone, let's put it like knowing someone that is very involved. It's just very inspiring. And
yeah, thanks. We integrated into our programs too. So like our signature program, Empower, we obviously don't force people to do anything, but we have a whole module we integrate in. Like we would love them to have a give back component in their program. So they get to pick whatever charity and however much they want to give and whatever that looks like. But we've had about 500 students or so now go through who have integrated give back into their own businesses. So the stuff they give back to is really cool, and just getting involved in each other's kind of missions and visions. And yeah, it's really special.
It's so neat. I love it so much. Oh my gosh.
Thanks.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So you're at 12 million now and growing.
Yeah. Yeah. Super proud. That's just what we know.
Right.
That's just what we know from like when we're in the program with the people, but they go on to, continue to build their businesses. And I get texts and screenshots and stuff all the time. I got last night, a client was like, she graduated 2.5 years ago. She's like, I just had a $24,000 launch. Like I just decided last week to launch, so it's just, we teach a lather, rinse, repeat model. And so they continue to just grow the businesses. And I'm sure it far exceeds 12 million, but that's what we know. Yeah.
It's so neat.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Like,
yeah.
Awesome.
It was really cool. It's really cool. It really is.
Yeah,
it really is.
So you're I don't know if we touched on it, but who do you coach? Like is your client?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, anyone, any niche. So we've helped over 150 niches. If you want to build a course or a coaching program, if you want to get into coaching, if you're a service-based entrepreneur, so hairdressers, real estate agents, we literally have helped anyone. We help people with brick and mortars. We help people online. We go soup to nuts. So we'll take you from, creating your LLC, if that's what you want to do, through making sure your finances are set up. And then we go through a 5-step process with you where we help you extract what it is that you're an expert at. How are you different? What's your unique sauce? What's your purpose? Then we go into identifying who it is that you help, how you help them, what's your framework to do that. We dive really deep into social media. So while we now run ads in our business for the last year, we built up to multiple 7 figures without any ads. So we teach all organic. And so we dive really deep into social media strategy, individualized marketing, figuring out what that's going to look like. And then we are experts in launching. So we take you through launch. We don't leave you hanging. There's no like, good luck, try to fly out of the nest. We're with you through everything from even like onboarding your clients, pricing, all of it. And so, we take you through launch, and then we take you through onboarding, and we have higher level programs too, that'll help you scale your team and kind of do advanced launching and all of that as well. So if you want to be a coach, course creator, anything like that.
So cool. Yeah. Ready to go follow her.
Yeah, please come say hi.
Yeah, that's so neat. Well, is there anything that you wanted to share that I didn't ask you, or anything you want to tell us?
Is there anything that I want to share? I mean, sometimes it just sounds so easy. It sounds so like, oh, you must have something that I don't have. Certainly when people read my bio, it's like, oh my God, multiple millions in 18 months. But it's like, yeah, don't forget, I told you I started in 2012. So it's really 10 years. It takes work. It takes work. It takes consistency. It's not sunshines and rainbows all the time. It's hard. It's a reflection of you. The more that you grow yourself, the more your business will grow. That just happens. It goes hand in hand. When people tell you to do the work, it's like, what does that mean? I mean, practice things like journaling and meditation, see a therapist, do the inner child work, cry it out, have the hard conversations. Like that stuff really, really, really matters. And the extent that you can grow yourself will grow your business just kind of as a byproduct. But yeah, I mean, we need to erase the overnight success story and the making money in 15 seconds and all of that. It's just not real. And it's doing a disservice to people that are starting. It really is, because it's leaving them discouraged. So I'm committed to, if you're not my people, it's totally fine. But you're not going to build some like mega legacy empire in like 16 minutes. It's just not going to happen. Yeah. So slow and steady, play for the long game. Yeah. Play for the long game.
Yeah. Are you, you're like, do you still have a particular like morning ritual or self-care practice routine that you do before you dive into your day's work?
Yeah. Oh, I love that you asked me this. If you had asked me this 2 years ago or three years ago, I would have taken you through my exact morning routine from the minute that I do this to the minute that I do this. And if it's not that, it's not this order, it's not perfect. And I found that to be extremely disempowering and it was doing me a disservice. So I worked my way up to having this 2-3 hour morning routine, and it was amazing. And I did all these things. And then one day I was like, I'm just checking things off the to-do list. They're not even working anymore. I hate this. This is stupid. So no, I don't. I have rituals. I have tools and I use them sometimes, and I use them in whatever order that I want for however long that I want. And sometimes it's not in the morning. There are a few non-negotiable things that typically will happen throughout the day. So at some point there's typically going to be meditation, and there's always going to be a movement, but that has even changed too, right? My definition of movement once was like CrossFit, have to be laying on the floor in like a puddle of puke and sweat. And now I'm like, oh, I could just go for a walk. Like today I went to yoga, so movement happens every day. Meditation and kind of breath work combined will typically happen every day. And sometimes it's an hour and 15-minute Joe Dispenza deep work. And sometimes it's like just a 10-minute, I've got nothing on, but I'm just breathing through some breaths for myself. I'm a huge advocate for journaling. I have not been, it's been months since I've journaled actually. Wow. And since we're snowbirding right now. So we now live in Arizona, but we're in New Jersey for the summer. So since we got here in June, I don't think I've journaled. So I go through seasons. I love like a good oracle card pull, but like, it's just fun. It's not, I don't use those things as like guides. Kind of like I'm a projector. I'm like, okay, so who cares? Like, don't put me in a box. I don't even resonate with a lot of the stuff that necessarily says. So I'm very cautious now of these different sort of routines and things and containers. And it's like, self-awareness is key. So I'll take all the tools I can get, but no, I don't have a strict morning routine. Twice this week, I was on my computer at 6:30 in the morning. So it's like, if I can allow myself the permission to do that, when I'm feeling it, I mean, that's where magic happens. So sometimes I want to get up and work, and sometimes I want to get up and work out,
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I love that. Cause I have those moments where, I've been doing my miracle morning consistently, to a degree since 2018. But there are times when I like go a whole week without journaling, or I go a whole week without meditating or whatever. But I find myself doing something, and may just be a walk outside. So I'm connecting to nature, like looking at the clouds or something. And like, that's just like my way to connect and still bring awareness to what I'm feeling and thinking, and shifting my vibration and everything. But I love that you said that. It's just like how you were so perfectionist about it. And that can also be quite detrimental to us, because then we associate like guilt and shame around it in the event we aren't
exactly.
Like, oh, we didn't do it. Well, what's wrong with us?
Like if you Google my maiden name, you'll see articles that I wrote for like Forbes back in 2019 about like how strict my morning routine was. And, I read every day too. So like that gets put in there somewhere. And then Mike and we do have a non-negotiable walk at the end of the workday. And sometimes we don't talk for the first 20, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. We're just kind of decompressing. We're shifting from both in the masculine work mode back into kind of more of the like relationship mode, right? We work together. We're in a small space. And so we do have a non-negotiable walk, and we generally do like gratitudes and stuff at dinner. We just we do like, what'd you mess up today? What'd you learn today? What are you grateful for? We'll just kind of do that stuff during dinner. But I've removed it from like, that has to happen before 7 a.m.
Yeah.
I do, however, wake up at 5 or 5:30, like every day. That's just a thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I used to. No, I don't. But
Yeah. For me,
back there. Well, what I loved about waking up between 5 and 6 a.m. was the fact, like, you literally, like, you're with the birds. And, like,
the world's off.
The world's off at that point. So it just feels like you just feel even maybe more connected or something. I don't know. But then I get like you said, like sometimes it's like 6:30 a.m. and you're like on your computer. And that sometimes happens to me. Like I'll get like a channeled message and I'm like, I gotta like write this out right now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the permission to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Well, I love this conversation. Where can everyone find you? Are you like promoting anything or like you got anything in the works? Yeah.
I think when this episode's coming out, we're going to be, I believe, doing our 3-part live experience. So I'd love to tell the audience about that. You can absolutely come to that. So twice a year, we run a 3-part, it's 2 weeks long, a digital business evolution live experience, literally no strings attached. Like, can you work with us? Yeah, absolutely. Do we want you to like join our programs and stuff? Totally. That's awesome. But this is a no strings attached 3-part, completely life and business transformational experience. And that's why we call it that. So that's happening right now. And you can still join us. There are replays. So if you've missed any of the days, they're going on September 15th, 20th, and 22nd. But for 2 weeks, every day in between, we have a Facebook group where the event goes down. We're actually also hosting like guest trainings every day. We've got experts coming in. I do bonuses. We do giveaways. We do live hot seat coaching, like totally for free. We've got about 2,000 people registered right now, which I'm really excited about. It's epic. We run it twice a year. So definitely come. We talk a lot about how you can build your business machine. And that is our philosophy. It's all about the machine. And so that you are not the machine. And so we're going to deep dive into like creating offers that sell themselves and all of that, but it's really about the machine. So you can absolutely sign up for that. I'm sure we could drop the link in the show notes, but I would say definitely come get a taste of our world and see what it's all about. It's at jessglazer.com/DBE live 2022. So you can get signed up. And if not, just come, say hi on Instagram. I am Jessica DeRose. That's my handle. So come say hi over there and let me know, some of your takeaways and what I can help you on.
Absolutely. Yeah, this has been great. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your story. And
listen to Kelly's podcast on digital business evolution. Duh, you have to listen to Kelly's episode.
Yeah. Listen to our conversation too. You'll learn a lot about me.
Yes, you will. For sure.
Yeah, no, this has been awesome. Thank you so much. It's, I love our friendship and, it's an honor to know you.
Oh, right back at you. I'm super grateful for you. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome, honey. Love ya.
Love you.
If you loved this episode, please download, share, rate, and review. If you are ready to step into that next level version of you and grow your business and bank account, it's time to unleash your goddess magic and chase life with Kelly. You can start this epic expansion journey by diving into the Goddess Magic course bundle found at chaselifetogether.com. Please connect with me on Instagram at Chase Life with Kelly. Join the Chase Life with Kelly Facebook community and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Till next time, create the life you crave, babe, and chase life with Kelly.